morning, everybody. Thank you for joining this session. My name is 𝗪𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀. I am the Principal Solutions Engineer at Ubico. I am joined by 𝗪𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, who is the CTO at XTN. What we're going to give you a quick overview of today is FIDO2 within the PSD framework, and then how that can be implemented into a full solution to provide a smooth, frictionless experience for both the authentication side and the analytics within the PS2 environment. So first of all, who are we? Ubico is a hardware authenticator manufacturer at the core of it. We are co-located in Stockholm and Palo Alto. We are a founding member of the FIDO Alliance, and we are the principal author behind FIDO U2F and FIDO2, which is the core of the technology here today. FIDO2, if you've not seen it, offers modern high-level assurance authentication. You will see it now being implemented pretty much across the board within the Google ecosystem, Microsoft, Facebook even, Twitter, and within the financial services environment now. And PSD2 and FIDO2 have a very natural fit together. Okay, so at the core of it, this is what Ubico does. We provide the hardware authenticators that is going to secure the connection into the XTN solution here. We're not providing the logic, we're not providing the actual platform, we're not providing the PS2 flow within the platform. What we are doing here is providing secure authenticators that meet the FIDO2 levels, and they also meet the PS2 requirements for authentication. What we have on the left is our standard range of keys. These are multi-protocol keys with the Yubico 5 series. All the keys do the same thing, they're just different form factors. So we have NFC versions of keys. We have the 5CI in the middle there. That's a lightning connector, so you can connect directly to, say, an iPhone and then move to the desktop. And the two little ones are designed to stay in your devices all the time. These are called the nanos. Very soon, we will have the biometric key in the middle here. This is biometrics to the hardware. This is not biometrics on device like your phone or your desktop, but this allows you to take the biometric with you. And again, this is part of the FIDO standard. These will be FIDO-only keys. And then finally, on the far right, we have the blue key, which we call our security key. This is an NFC FIDO-only key. So again, a cost-effective solution for just the FIDO solutions. So this, at the core of it, is what we do. Now, FIDO2, why is FIDO2 important? So FIDO2 is a modern authentication standard. It's based on PKI public-private key pairs. So we have that strong cryptographic base to it. There's a cryptographic challenge to the hardware or the secure enclave every time to verify that the keys are correct. We have things like origin binding in here. So a FIDO authenticator like a YubiKey will only respond to the services it is registered with. This helps us break down all the phishing and the man-in-the-middle attacks. Aiding that, we have things like user presence and verification. So this gives you a lot of flexibility in how you use your FIDO authenticator in your platform. You can use it as a pure passwordless solution, just touch and go. You can put a PIN or a biometric around it, so a touch or a PIN and in. You can even use it as a standard 2FA type device. So again, this is why FIDO2 is very popular within the industry now. Okay, like we're saying, with the man-in-the-middle and the phishing attempts, we have the origin binding. We have also unique registration. So whenever you bind a YubiKey to a service, like the XTN service, and then maybe your Google service, and then maybe your Outlook, that's unique registration every time. So if there is a compromise at the back-end service, it doesn't compromise everybody else in your keychain. Keys. FIDO allows multiple keys against the same service. So this really helps us when we're looking at the mobile flow, especially in the consumer space. If you just want to go from a desktop to a mobile, they may have a different preference on their form factor, and they may want one key or two keys and so forth. And then we have this support across pretty much every browser and every platform going on now. Apple, Android, Mac, Windows, Linux, etc. Okay. So how does this help us with PSD2? So PSD2, we have the regulated technical standards, and we have all the requirements for your direct, your indirect, and your dynamic linking. And if you look at the documentation that's coming out, both the PS2 consortiums and the FIDO Alliance, you can see how FIDO2 matches over to the PSD2 requirements. So the language within the FIDO2 world matches very nicely in the PSD2 world. So we have personalized credentials, we have protection of the third-party provider, we have registration to the payment service providers, we have roaming and platform authenticators, again, so like we say, you can have an external YubiKey, or you could actually use Touch ID here. We have things like knowledge and inheritance that are classed within the PSD2 realm that match directly over into user presence and verification within the FIDO realm. So there is a very good match there. We have the PKI backend, as I say, with this. So the level of assurance with FIDO in general is extremely high. And then you can build this into your password flows. And this works very, very well. So as I say, just a mapping of the language here. FIDO user has PSU, authenticator's possession, and so forth. So this lets us start from scratch. This lets us build our FIDO2 and PSD2 solutions with all this built in from the beginning. We can use FIDO2 within our authentication flows or even with our dynamic linking flows as well. But we may not always want to do this. We may not always want to start from scratch. So whilst FIDO2 meets all the RTS requirements, while you can design a system from scratch with FIDO2 and PSD2 in mind, you may not want to go all the way into that route. So this is what we're kind of looking at here today. So we could also look at a FIDO2 authenticator and a YubiKey as providing a root of trust into your environment. So rather than maybe using it at the very low level for everything, that we use something secure like a YubiKey to get the users into their accounts, to enroll new devices, to bootstrap their mobiles, and to be used when a policy decides that that extra authentication is required. So when we talk about root of trust, we look at utilizing the YubiKey in both the desktop and the mobile environment here. So again, talking about keeping the user experience nice and simple, we would look at, say, maybe using the YubiKey after you've done your identity proofing and pre-enrollment of a new customer into their web app, into their web banking. They simply present their YubiKey, they touch it, they may provide a fingerprint, they may provide a PIN, but it's a very simple solution to get them into the system. There's a lot of technology and a lot of assurance going on in the back end, but for as far as the user sees, it's a very, very simple one-touch operation. Once from their web-based solution, they can then enroll new YubiKeys as backups or as secondary keys. And then we can look at getting them out to their mobile solution. So I have a couple of web banking solutions on my phone. They are generally quite hard to initialize the first time, fairly easy to use afterwards, but that initial enrollment is quite hard. With something like a trusted YubiKey, we can simply install the app from the relevant app stores, touch the key or plug it in, verify because we've already gone through the identity verification process, and bootstrap that mobile application onto my phone. Very nice and simple for the user. We can then leverage all the onboard biometrics, be it fingerprint or face, and then the YubiKey doesn't have to be used unless the policies and the authentication side of it decide later on there is a requirement for the user to present their root of trust again. That Threat Analytics has gone on and said there is something wrong with this, that maybe the velocity metrics say, well, hello, that's it. The user's moved far too quickly. I just need that step up authentication again to prove you are who you say you are. And this is how we're going to look at the YubiKey in this scenario here today with the XDN solution. So what we're going to see is the user logging in very, very simply with a YubiKey and that level of assurance, being able to then use it on their mobile devices, and then only have it being required over and above, say, the normal biometrics on the device when a policy or a control decides there is something suspect about the transaction going on, and we just want to check the user. Or it may just be that a high value transaction is going through, and again, we want to double check what we are doing. So with that, what I'm going to do now is hand over to Guido, who will go through how a PSD2 and SCA compliant application can ease all this and manage all this for the users and the enterprise. Over to you, Guido.
So thank you, Nick, and thank you for joining. I'm Guido Ronchetti, I'm the CTO of XDN. Just let me introduce quickly XDN. We are a fraud protection provider. Our approach is having a omni-channel and behavior-based fraud protection solution. We are a private company with a pretty impressive growth rate year by year. And let me say, even if we are a pretty young company, we are what I would define as scale up. So we have a good number of clients in production that use our technology on a daily basis. In the last few years, we have gained visibility through some of the more well-known analysts in the market. You can see some of them mentioned in my slide. So let me just explain the different layers that are part of our holistic approach. The first layer is what we call the behavioral in-app protection. This means looking at the way the end user interacts with a mobile or web app and looking at the context where the app is executed. The second layer focuses on fraud protection, meaning analyzing the content of the transaction from a business standpoint and recognizing the behavior of the user while interacting with the service from a business perspective. The third layer focuses on identity proofing, so verifying the identity of the user, relying on strong customer authentication on one end, and on the behavioral profile of the user on the other side. So what the XTN Cognitive Security Platform can do in a PSD2 or open banking context? First of all, we are able to centralize the management of strong customer authentication exceptions. And this is, of course, a very important requirement in the PSD2 context. Another important point is being able to track the use of exceptions and track ATV trends that are related to fraud trends, of course. So this is a very important aspect because applying exceptions simplify the user flow and the user experience. So having ATV trends under control and being able to track the use of exceptions is a very important aspect in the PSD2 regulations. Another important aspect is being able to provide strong customer authentication and dynamically linking features as required by PSD2. And as you will see during the demo, this works relying on the root of trust, but also giving you the ability to use your mobile app in order to provide a full detailed view of what is happening to the end user. Of course, we include the analysis of TPPs, and this is a different topic in the PSD2 context that is anyhow very important. And we are able to provide and produce some of the reports that are required by central authorities. Okay, so let's dive in the smart authentication topic and just start with a bit of context. So let's go through how times are changing. I think the pandemic has accelerated the migration to digital platforms of a lot of financial institutions. And what is happening is that while users migrate to digital services, they expect from their bank the same kind of easiness and user experience that they expect from their retail e-commerce sites. And this is a very important challenge for financial institutions today. On the other hand, the consumer is expecting the highest possible level of security from their banking services. And security is one of the main topics you would see on a daily basis on news and websites. Cybersecurity is becoming a very important part of our daily by day information. So consumers are becoming aware of what cybersecurity is, and they are expecting from their banking services to be as secure as possible. Fortunately, technology is offering us solutions that give us the ability to provide a frictionless experience to the consumer while having the highest standards of security available. Okay, and so what is happening as an evolution of financial services? Of course, as we already mentioned, next generation services are competing on the ease of use. And this is a very important point. And in the same time, they are starting presenting security as part of their value, of their marketing messaging. And this is another very important point. And last but not least, they are competing in a different manner from the past. So even in the financial industry, switching from a service to another one is becoming easy and easy on a daily basis. And for that reason, changing bank based on the user experience they provide is becoming something that is much more common than in the past. Okay, so let's go to the demo environment and just let me present the characters you will see during my demonstration. So of course, we have our root of trust that Nick already introduced. We have a mobile device that is used as an authentication app, but this could be the same for a banking app, for example, inside a mobile device. And last but not least, we have our web app, web banking app, and several components that will work under the hood to provide the rescore. So let's move on and let's start with the demonstration. So let me just introduce this first step. You will see it's very quick. So we will use the root of trust to authenticate the first time on the website of the bank and to activate our software token in the mobile device. So no need for additional codes, no need for any kind of other quantities pre-shared with the user, just using the root of trust in order to grant access in the first place. So you will see, I'll just click on submit. My root of trust will be required. And just by clicking on my YubiKey, I'll be inside the environment. Let's now look at how a software token initialization looks like. So the user is just selecting the type of software token, nothing special. I mean, part of this information are not necessarily in the real world, but just for demo purpose. As you can see, I'm using my root of trust to close the loop and using the data channel, initialize my software token in my mobile device. Very easy, just put my key near my smartphone. Okay, now that I have my software token active, let's look at how a login or transaction looks like. So this is our fake banking site, just for demo purpose again. And this time I will use my smart authenticator to log in. So in this example, we are passing through a standard and traditional login flow. So my password is required. When I click on submit, you will see a push notification reaching my mobile device. And through the authenticator app, I will close the loop after looking at, of course, at the user agent. Again, these are demo information. What I think is interesting to underline is that, as you can see in this left section of the screen, there are lots of different risk scores that have been evaluated under the hood. So the transactional risk and the endpoint risk related to the software token app. So let's move to the transactional demonstration. I will just change the transfer amount to show you the same information in the mobile device. And I will force the endpoint risk. So I will simulate the fact that my mobile device is not secure enough for this kind of operation. So as soon as I push the submit button, the same information are in the mobile device. And in this case, as you can see in my left screen, considering the endpoint risk was high, my root of trust was required. And by using my Lightning key, in this case, I will be closing the loop and just authenticate myself and signing the transaction. So again, it's important to underline how in this situation where the endpoint was not secure enough, we had a step-up authentication based on the root of trust and the YubiKey. So what was happening under the hood? So which kind of evaluation was happening inside the mobile device? This is just an example, but you can see, for example, that when a mobile malware has been detected in the device, this could produce an high risk. It's not the only scenario, but it's very important to underline that this real-time analysis gives our clients the ability to decide how to react. And through the use of the root of trust, they can just close the loop without a manual intervention of the analyst. Same thing could apply to web events. So this is, for example, a web-generated evaluation. So you can see an account takeover detection based on the interaction of the user with the keyboard and mouse. All this happens under the hood without having the end user noticing anything of this evaluation activity. So this is the end of my demo. Let's just recap what you have seen on screen. First of all, the whole perimeter was secured. So having the cognitive security platform in place, we have been able to look at the different actors, monitor the security context, and rely on secure authentication mechanisms, secure strong customer authentication components in order to actually authenticate the user. A second very important aspect is that we are relying on a top-notch security capabilities. So best-in-class crypto open standards, think about FIDO2, together with artificial intelligence-driven risk evaluation capabilities. As you have noticed, the user experience was smooth and fast, nothing special, just your mobile device, a button to push, or your YubiKey just to put near your mobile device. And I think it's very important to underline the fact that having this kind of flow, two-factor authentication becomes a first-class citizen in the fraud prevention flow. So by having a step-up authentication inside the fraud detection flow, you can avoid any manual intervention from your organization. So thank you for watching our presentation and demo. And please come and reach us at our virtual booth or contact us through our website for any additional question. Thank you.